So I'm pretty excited and pretty ecstatic about my new Pinebook Pro. I have a friend who bought one of these, or bought this laptop with the ISO keyboard. Early on, he ended up not needing it. So he very kindly just gave it to me. Well, as soon as I knew he was going to give this thing to me, I ordered an ANSI keyboard. See here the US layout. And so I picked it up from him and I installed the new keyboard. And I've installed different hardware components before, and I didn't realize that it meant removing the screen, removing the touchpad, and totally disassembling it. I actually have a video about it. And one thing I didn't mention in the video is I set this initially and this was catching. It's doing fine now, and I reset it, and I managed to make it where the left click wasn't catching. I use my mouse all the time anyways. So initially I flashed it had the Debian 9 original OS on it, and so I was like, well, I'm going to put Armbian, which is Debian 10, on it. And so I flashed that to a micro SD card. The micro SD slot is over here. And then I wiped the original install, and I flashed Armbian. Well, I got everything set up and everything working, and I finally got my USB-C to HDMI adapter in, and it didn't work. So I even tried, by this point, for whatever reason, the micro SD boot wasn't working. And so I was trying that and couldn't get it to work, and I thought, well, this is using the 4.4 kernel. Why don't I try upgrading to the 5.4 kernel? So that was a mistake. After that, I think it would turn on. Oh, it would turn on inconsistently. But when it did turn on, it was just a black screen. Nothing I could do with it. I tried, and so once again, by this point, I was unable to boot from a USB drive or the micro SD an and so I had kind of locked myself out of the system, and I knew what I needed to do is order an eMMC to USB adapter. So I spent a lot of money. I spent $21 on the nicer one, Odroid one on Amazon. Now, if I had known the future, I would have ordered that for $5 from Pine64 when I ordered the keyboard. So I got that in, and I flashed. This time I decided I'm going to go. So one of my philosophies with Linux is don't get too far off the beaten path, or don't get off of the beaten path. So I thought, well, this thing ships with the Manjaro. So I flashed Manjaro, and from my desktop, and then I inserted that in, and midway through the install, the screen and everything just kind of shut off. And so I'm like, what's going on? And I think I was able to maybe boot up again and finish the install. But anyway, shortly after, the thing wouldn't turn on at all. And it was not powering on at all. And so I opened up the back, and I looked up, and other people had had the same issue. And it was some combination of switching the eMMC module switch and pressing the reset button, and I got the thing booting. So now I've never run I run Debian stable on everything. I've never run Manjaro before. In my experience, with the setup process, the install process was very smooth, very polished, and the desktop very polished. The XFCE desktop very nice looking. And so that was very nice, and I installed all my programs. I was able to install everything except for maybe 3 or 4 packages, and those, of course, are in the Arch user repository. But I think I'm just going to opt to compile or install those directly from the author, because I just do that sort of thing. And so I've noticed with Manjaro, I've been learning a lot with it. So it's new, so I know whenever something is different, it's challenging in that way. It seems less convenient, but some things are a little more manual than with Debian. So I encrypted my home directory, and I use eCryptFS, and there's a bug. So if you do that, look at that bug because it's a critical bug, and that's why it's not in Debian 10. It's in SID though. It's an unstable. But anyways, I installed that here and set up home directory encryption here, and it had more manual steps. I had to edit a config file to get it to work on login. And then by default, Nano was installed, but Vi or Vim wasn't installed. So after installing Vim, I noticed too, I typed Vi file name and it didn't work. So that wasn't aliased automatically. And so I fixed that a bit. And then I noticed cron jobs are a little bit, on Debian you just type cron tab space dash E, and there's your user cron editing and your cron job editing, and it was a little more complicated, but I think I'm getting to the bottom of the steps and I'm getting, all the kinks worked out. But the things that are a little more complicated that I've experienced, maybe there are some things that are simpler. Oh yeah, I had a bit of a time figuring out how to swap my escape and caps lock, but the solution to that was actually really easy. So if you are curious about that, just post a comment. But I'm very happy about this, and of course with Manjaro, the video out, is on that side? Yeah, USB-C video out is working, and I've got everything working properly. On Armbian, I couldn't get these keys. They weren't registering the function keys for, I think, F1 through F6, I think, or F7, one of the two. I couldn't get those to work properly, and all of those function keys are working properly. I thought that was a firmware issue. Maybe Manjaro updated the firmware, and I didn't see that when I installed it, but very happy about this. I decided not to go with the NVMe drive because, well, I'm just going to keep it simple for a while at least, but maybe in the future. But my main concern there is battery usage, and I want the battery to last a long time. And if it takes a little longer for Firefox to load, that's okay with me. So very happy about this, and I definitely recommend the Pinebook Pro, and maybe want to go with the Manjaro version. I haven't tried other versions, but it is a fun laptop to tinker with, and lots of forum posts about it already, and info you can find as well.